What if a new conflict is looming on the horizon? A conflict that could reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Picture this: Iran and Israel, two powerful nations with a history of conflicts, are once again at the brink of a clash. This time, the spark that ignited the rising tensions was a suspected Israeli airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. The loss was not insignificant. Among the casualties were two of Iran's top generals, a blow that has stirred the hornet's nest. Iran did not take this lying down. Instead, it sent a clear and stern warning to the United States, advising it to stay out of the forthcoming conflict. But why did Iran choose to send this message to the US? Perhaps it's an attempt to keep the conflict bilateral, or maybe it's a strategic move to prevent the US from providing support to Israel. The airstrike, however, was not an isolated incident. Over the past few months, Israel has repeatedly targeted Iran-linked assets in Syria. But this was the first time an attack struck an Iranian diplomatic building, a move that has significantly heightened the stakes. In response to this escalating threat, Israel has been on high alert. Home leave for combat troops has been cancelled, reserves have been called up, and air defenses are being bolstered. The Israeli military even scrambled navigational signals over Tel Aviv in an attempt to disrupt GPS-navigated drones or missiles that could potentially be fired at the country. But the question remains, will these measures be enough to deter a potential strike from Iran? Or are we on the precipice of a conflict that could further destabilize the already tense region? This is not an isolated incident, but the latest in a series of events that have been escalating tensions in the region. These rising tensions between Iran and Israel are not just about these two nations. They are part of a larger narrative that involves other power players in the Middle East and beyond. The consequences of these escalating tensions could be far-reaching, affecting not just the political landscape of the region, but also the global economy and the delicate balance of power on the world stage. Who are the key players that could shape the outcome of this potential conflict? Let's take a deep dive into the Middle Eastern chessboard. At the forefront, we find Hezbollah, a formidable force in the region led by Hassan Nasrallah. Nasrallah, a figure shrouded in secrecy, has declared an inevitable response from Iran. But interestingly, he also stated his group won't interfere in such decisions. This suggests a complex power dynamic at play, where alliances are clear, yet each player maintains its own course of action. Hezbollah is not just a group that stands by, it is a well-oiled machine, prepared and ready for any war with Israel. Their readiness is not just rhetoric, it's backed by a powerful arsenal, which, according to Nasrallah, has not been used in the daily skirmishes with Israel along the southern border of Lebanon since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. This hints at the considerable might they are holding back, a potential game-changer in any conflict. Now let's shift our focus to Iran's so-called resistance groups across the region. These groups are a testament to Iran's influence and reach. They represent a network of power and control that extends beyond Iran's borders, adding another layer of complexity to the developing situation. These groups could serve as Iran's proxies, potentially opening multiple fronts in any conflict with Israel. But it's not just about the groups Iran controls. It's about the relationships Iran has fostered with these groups. They are tied together by mutual interests, shared enemies, and a common cause. This connectivity magnifies the impact of any single player, making the collective a force to be reckoned with, and a significant player in the regional power dynamics. The power dynamics in the Middle East are complex and ever-changing, and these players could significantly influence the outcome of a potential conflict. These actors, with their unique roles and relationships, are like pieces on a chessboard, each with its own strategic significance. As tensions rise and the possibility of conflict looms, the moves they make could shape the future of the Middle East. How does the United States fit into this intense geopolitical puzzle, you may ask? The answer is complex and layered, much like the situation itself. Currently, the United States is in a high state of alert, actively preparing for what is being referred to as a significant attack. But this isn't just any attack. It's one that could target Israeli or American assets in the region. Senior U.S. officials are in a state of heightened concern. their brows furrowed and minds racing. They believe an attack by Iran is not just likely, but inevitable. This grim view is shared by their Israeli counterparts, creating a chilling consensus that reverberates across continents. As the proverbial storm clouds gather, the two governments are working fervently to get in position ahead of what is to come. They anticipate that Iran's attack could unfold in a number of different ways, a chilling game of chess where every move could have far-reaching consequences. Both US and Israeli assets and personnel are at risk, highlighting the gravity of the situation. The threat of a forthcoming Iranian attack was a sobering topic of discussion on a recent phone call between President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The leaders, both seasoned in the art of diplomacy and the harsh realities of conflict, are undoubtedly aware of the potential repercussions. Their dialogue underscores the urgency and the weight of the situation, as well as their commitment to addressing it. The United States, a global superpower with a vested interest in maintaining regional stability, is finding itself in an increasingly precarious position. It is walking a tightrope, balancing its own national security interests with those of its allies, whilst also seeking to deter further escalation. The stakes are high, and the US is preparing for the worst, even as it hopes for the best. The coming days and weeks will test the resolve and strategic acumen of the nation as it navigates this complex and evolving geopolitical puzzle. What could be the implications of such a conflict, and why should the world pay attention? This is a question that weighs heavily on the minds of many. The potential consequences of a conflict between Iran and Israel are far-reaching and could reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. The region is already a complex web of alliances and rivalries, and any shift in power could have a major impact on the balance of power. One potential outcome is the risk of a wider regional conflict involving other countries. We've seen instances in the past where localized conflicts have escalated into broader wars, drawing in nations that were initially bystanders. This is a real concern as countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, who have been strengthening ties with Israel, could be drawn into the fray. Another dimension to consider is the economic implications. The Middle East is a crucial hub for the global energy market. Any conflict in the region has the potential to disrupt oil supplies, leading to spikes in global energy prices. This, in turn, could have a domino effect on economies around the world, particularly those still recovering from the economic fallout of the pandemic. Beyond the economic and geopolitical implications, there are also humanitarian concerns. Conflicts inevitably lead to loss of life, displacement of people, and widespread suffering. The international community has a moral obligation to prevent such outcomes, and let's not forget the potential for escalation to a nuclear level. Iran's nuclear program has been a point of contention for years. In a worst-case scenario, a conflict could push Iran to accelerate its nuclear ambitions, leading to a nuclear arms race in the region. So, why should the world pay attention? The answer is simple. In today's globalized world, no conflict is isolated. The ripple effects of a potential Iran-Israel conflict could touch every corner of the globe, impacting economies, disrupting lives, and destabilizing international peace and security. That's why it's crucial for the international community to keep a keen eye on the evolving situation and make every effort to prevent escalation. Because in a world more interconnected than ever, a conflict in one region can have ripple effects across the globe. To sum up, we are standing at a critical juncture in the Middle East. The rising tensions between Iran and Israel, fueled by a suspected consulate attack in Syria, have the potential to escalate into a full-blown conflict. Key players like Iran's so-called resistance groups and Israel's bolstered defenses are on standby, ready for any potential outbreak of hostility. The United States is on high alert, preparing for a significant response from Iran against Israeli or American targets in the region. This heightened state of readiness underlines the severity of the situation and the potential global implications of a possible conflict. The anticipated Iranian attack has been a major topic of discussion between President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. highlighting the need for diplomatic efforts to prevent further escalation. As we navigate these turbulent times, it is crucial to stay informed, seek understanding, and advocate for peace.